Again, my name is Ashley Hastings, and I'm going to be your subject of today's presentation for most of the presentation anyway. And a little bit about myself. When we started discussing this whole Meet the Technologist kind of meet and greet or information session, I was pretty apprehensive to talk about myself or share my story because it is somewhat complicated and long, and I really kind of just wanted to talk about the program. And the lovely admissions team kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone and said, we want to hear your story. People want to know how you got into this, and maybe people are having some of the same struggles that you're having. So as I started to put this together, I really reflected on that, and it kind of made me realize, had I had the opportunity to talk to somebody or to hear somebody's story about how they got into neurodiagnostics, that I probably would have chosen the field a lot sooner and not wasted so much time and money kind of floundering around in some of the other life choices that I made. So anyway, this is my introduction slide. Again, most of this presentation is about me. So very quickly, I am going to say that I am Ashley. I'm the program chair of Neurodiagnostics. I'm 32 years old, and I like to spend time with my family and my friends. Pre-COVID, I was a self-proclaimed Maxxinista. I like to shop. TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods, Target, you name it. Since COVID, Amazon has heavily fueled my shopping addiction, which my very supportive husband loves, who you see in the next bubble. My husband is Jordan, and he has been putting up with my shenanigans for about 16 years. We've been together since 2005. 13 of those 16 years we have been married. So he's really seen my education journey from the beginning all the way to where I am now. Has really been my biggest supporter and cheerleader kind of through each step of the way. In 2017, on Valentine's Day, we welcomed our daughter into the world, into this crazy life we have. Her name is Delaney. She just turned 4 years old about a month ago, and she is your typical crazy 4-year-old ball of energy. She is she is the why behind everything I do now. So she was an important part of this introduction. And last but not least, our fur baby, her name is Lexi. We rescued her from a shelter about a year and a half ago, so somewhat new to our family, but fits right into our crazy chaos. Yeah, these are my immediate family and kind of the whole driving force behind my education journey and my career progression. So let's jump right in. Where it all began. So I frequently have people ask me where I'm from, most recently Roberts, but I'm somewhat local to the area despite how my voice sounds. I grew up in Bessemer City, North Carolina, which is about 25 miles west of Charlotte, and I graduated from Bessemer City High School in 2006, and I consider I took the traditional pathway where the fall after I graduated, I started college. And that is where my education journey began. I went to Catawba Valley Community College, like I said, in the fall of 2006, and eventually landed myself at UNC Charlotte and graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2016. So over the next couple of slides, I'm going to tell you what happened in between that 10-year span that got me into neurodiagnostics. So as I mentioned before, CVCC is where I started in 2016. Excuse me, not 2016, 2006. I'm having a hard time with these dates because I feel like it's really dating me. Like I didn't realize I was that old until I started putting dates on things. But anyway, I digress. So 2006, I started at Catawba Valley Community College. straight out of high school. I had gone through an allied health program and was really strongly set on dental hygiene. It's what I was going to do. You were not going to change my mind. And I also wasn't going to leave and go off to college because my high school sweetheart was in my hometown. So I was not going to leave and go to college. So Catawba Valley Community College was a short enough drive for me, and they had a reputable dental hygiene program. So I met with my advisor and got on the pre-track to dental hygiene. So started taking my prerequisites, and then I had the opportunity to shadow at a dental hygiene office. And very, very quickly realized that dental hygiene was not for me. I did not like spit or saliva or bodily fluids or suction gurgly noises. Just was not for me. So I went back to my advisor and said, help. This is not for me. This is not the beautiful picture that I had painted in my head as to what dental hygiene was. So she said, look at the other courses we have to offer or the other pathways. And I saw radiology. And I said, that's it. That's the next bandwagon I'm jumping on. I don't need to research it. I know they take x-rays, easy peasy, cut and dry. So luckily for me, most of my pre-requirements or prerequisites for dental hygiene transitioned over to the radiology program. So there were a couple courses that I still needed before I could apply for radiology, but for the most part, most of my prereqs were done. So over the period of the next few months, I continued to take my last few required courses for the radiologic technology program. And while I did that, I decided that I was going to take a short 8-week phlebotomy course because why not? Nothing better to do, I guess, in my life. And my thought process in taking phlebotomy was that I was going to get my foot into the door into a healthcare organization, get some patient care experience, learn how to interact with patients, and hopefully that would help me along my clinical journey. So I did that and finished my phlebotomy program and started working at Gaston Memorial Hospital, or now called Caramont Regional Medical Center in Gastonia. And shortly after I got a job, I finished my prerequisites and applied for the radiology program. And a little bit of background on the radiology program. At the time, they actually accepted 10 students and 2 alternates one time a year. So the admissions process was based on a point system. So you got 10 points for an A and that you had in English, and 7 points for a B, and so on and so forth. You also got points for things like community service or volunteering or clinical experience, things like that. They granted you so many points for, and obviously the students with the highest points, the first 10, were able to get into the program. So I was on an alternates list for 2 years for radiology. And within those 2 years, I continued to take gen ed courses and continued to work as a phlebotomist, hoping that I would eventually get into radiology. And a long story short, as we all can imagine, I did not get into radiology. The second year that I became on the alternates list, I reached out to my advisor and I said, I don't know what else to do. And luckily, I can say luckily now, then I found my love of EEG. So my advisor said, are you willing to wait another year to maybe or maybe not get into radiology? Or are you looking for something else that you can start now and complete a career or complete your path and start your career? And so the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I've been at Catawba Valley Community College for 2 years now, and I don't even have a degree to show for it. I was burnt out, I was frustrated, I was overwhelmed, and I was ready to be done with school, just to be honest. And she said to me, she said, I want you to look into our Neurodiagnostic technology program. And my response to her was, huh? Like, I don't even know what you just said. I have no idea what you're even talking about. And she explained to me a little bit about the program, very, very high level, and told me that I had all the requirements that I needed to apply for the program. So basically, that's all I needed to hear. I applied for the program. Now, my disclaimer, do not do as I did. I was very, very fortunate that it worked out, that this is a career that I love, but I did not ask questions. I did not do my research on the program because I was somewhat legitimately burnt out. I was frustrated that I had spent 2 years of my life and didn't even have a degree to show for it. And I wanted to get my career started so therefore I could start my life and my family and have kids and, live the whole dream. So I applied for Neurodiagnostic Technology, essentially blindly, not really knowing what it was, and I got into the program. So just to recap a little bit, from about 2007 to 2010, I spent these 3 years kind of in this weird limbo of not knowing what I wanted to do, not getting into radiology, working full time, throw in let's get married because that's what I did, and then finally applying and getting into neurodiagnostic technology in 2010. So I'm going to trust that we are all a judgment-free zone here because I included some pictures from about 10 years ago when I was in the neurodiagnostic program myself. And so these are pictures of me and my classmates when we were learning the procedure and learning how to hook up the EEG on each other. And like I said before, when I started this program in 2010, I was working as a phlebotomist at Caramont Regional Gaston Memorial. And challenging, yes, but doable, also yes. My management team was very, very flexible with me in the fact that they let me work a very early shift. So I worked a morning run shift, which was like 3 a.m. to 11 a.m., drawing labs all over the hospital. And when I needed to be at clinical or at the college, they were very flexible in the fact that they let me switch my hours to a weekend shift where I worked Saturday and Sunday, 7 a to 7 p. So their flexibility allowed me to continue to work full time while pursuing my education at Catawba Valley Community College. And I continued to do that throughout the 2-year period until I graduated in 2012 and obtained my first EEG technologist job. So fast forward to the last semester of my associate's degree program at Catawba Valley Community College. I did my clinicals at 2 different facilities. The first rotation I did at Forsyth Medical Center in Winston-Salem, and the second rotation I did at CMC Northeast, which is now called Atrium Health Cabarrus. And while at Atrium Health Cabarrus, there started to be some kind of discussions about positions and new positions. And so I applied for an open position as a student. Was very fortunate to get an interview and get hired on straight out of clinicals. So the week after I graduated, I started working at the hospital or at CMC Northeast. Was it the best job for me? Yes and no. Personally, CMC Northeast was the farthest location away from my house that had positions open, but it was the very first job I got offered, so I took it. I started working 8-hour days, and CMC Northeast was is about 52 miles from my house one way. So my 8-hour days were typically 10 to 11-hour days, depending on traffic. But that was the start of my professional career or my career path with Atrium Health. The hospital itself, it almost felt like a culture shock coming from Gaston Memorial to a big organization like Atrium Health, but the neurodiagnostics department as a whole in Atrium Health has a lot of good people who really invested in my education and invested in my training and really kind of helped shape and mold me into the tech and the leader that I am today. My notes say to wrap up this presentation, but this slide is going to be pretty heavily talked about. So in 2012, that's essentially when I obtained my associate's degree through Catawba Valley Community College and was hired on directly at Atrium Health Cabarrus. When I got to the department, I really focused on what my role was as a technologist, learning my role to the best of my ability, and understanding how my job fit into the whole healthcare puzzle. Because previous to being a neurodiagnostic technologist, the only healthcare experience I had was phlebotomy. And if you guys know anything about healthcare, sometimes these little subspecialty departments don't necessarily get to branch out to other departments in the hospital and communicate with other jobs or with other teammates sometimes. So I really focused on how my role as a neurodiagnostic technologist fits into this patient care puzzle and how I could be the best at my job. So about 6 months into my role at Cabarrus, I started really heavily studying for my board exams. Took my first exam and passed. My second exam, to be 100% transparent, took me a couple times to pass. But eventually I passed it and continued to work. One of the things that I love about Atrium Health is they very much support growing your teammates from the inside. And that's kind of exactly the steps that I fell into. So management began to discuss leadership opportunities in the department and how they felt like there needed to be almost like a floor supervisor or a leader, similar to like a clinical nurse supervisor who could handle daily operations, daily scheduling challenges, working to put out small fires that didn't really need management interaction, or to help de-escalate something before it became a management issue. So being the youngest and the newest person in the department, I certainly did not expect to obtain the role of a chief tech, but I put my name in the hat because I knew that I wanted to progress in this career. This is the path that I've chosen, and I wanted to make something out of it. So, to my surprise, I got the position, and that came with a whole new set of challenges. Being the youngest and the newest person in the department, I was faced with some pretty strong opinions and, we'll say, challenging teammates that did not see me as the right candidate for the job. So along with all of those other things that I mentioned, like daily staffing, coordinating schedules, things like that, a big part of my role as a chief tech was trust building and communicating to get people from my team to be on my team, for them to see that I supported them and that they could trust me. So throughout my role as a chief technologist, about a year and a half, 2 years, I started looking into continuing my education a little further. I had always known that I wanted to achieve a bachelor's degree. I was the first person in my immediate family to graduate from college, period. And so I knew that I wanted to continue that for my own personal growth. And I began to look into the program at UNC Charlotte. It was a fairly new program at the time called a bachelor's of science in neurodiagnostics and sleep science. So it directly related with my career as a neurodiagnostic tech and was very, very relevant to my associate's degree that I had already obtained. So I started to pursue my degree at UNC Charlotte while working as a chief technologist, still full-time student, full-time employee, as well as probably a part-time wife. Luckily at that time, my husband was pretty self-sufficient, and I was able to really focus on my job and school. And so about a year into my bachelor's program, management came around again and started stirring up the pot a little bit to talk about leadership changes. So the manager of the department was going to move into a director role, and that then opened up a manager position. So while it felt like natural progression for me to go from a chief tech role into the management role, it was not a gimme. I had to apply for the position. I had to prove that I was knowledgeable and capable of doing the position. And then I got the position as a manager of Neurodiagnostic technology. So I'm very much a person that I sometimes tend to pack my plate very full, and that's exactly what I did. I was in the midst of my bachelor's degree program while learning a new role as a manager, while also trying to backfill my position as a chief tech, because now I was the manager and I was responsible for hiring people. So it was a very challenging situation that stretched me and grew me into the leader that I am today. So after I finished my bachelor's degree in 2016, my role as a manager at Atrium Health essentially grew and evolved to more than I ever kind of imagined that it could be. Eventually, it got up to the point where I managed 7 facilities throughout Atrium Health. So Pineville, Union, Mercy, University, CMC, Lincoln, and Cabarrus. All of those neurodiagnostic departments were essentially under my supervision, which is a challenge in itself. About 30 to 35 people, but the sheer distance between Union and Lincoln was about 85 miles. So that made things very complicated and a little challenging to make sure that my teammates knew that I supported them, even though they didn't see me every single day. So I was in the role of manager for about 3 years or so. In 2017, I became pregnant, or excuse me, I had my child. I became pregnant in 2016 with my child. And that kind of threw another complicated piece of the puzzle into my life, a good complicated piece. But now not only was I coordinating everything for my job, but I also had to coordinate my home life and childcare and a lot of things to juggle. We were very fortunate that my husband's family stepped in and helped a lot with our childcare until they just couldn't. We had an unfortunate situation where my mother-in-law was diagnosed with early onset dementia. And as her dementia began to progress, obviously our childcare situation was a lot more strained because aunts that were helping us with childcare now needed to help with my mother-in-law, and also myself and my husband were also being stretched to help as well on top of our full-time jobs and our own little family. So in 2018, I would say mid-year 2018, I really had to kind of reevaluate my life and look at what kind of situation we were in, and kind of I'm just going to be honest, I had to take one for the team, which was really difficult for me to do. I had to step down from my management role, which again, I'll be very transparent, was very, very hard to do. And it sounds selfish probably to people, but I had worked my tail off to get to this leadership role where I was, just to be honest, I was making really good money. I had decent hours. This is what I had set out to do. And it was almost like a gut punch to have to go back to clinical staffing. which I will circle back to in a minute because it ended up being a blessing in disguise. My director at the time was very supportive in my need to be home with my family, and she helped me transition to a clinical EEG role on weekend nights. So I worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and I was home basically Monday through Friday night to help with my mother-in-law, to help um, or not to help with my kid, but to obviously take care of my kid. So I did not have to put her in childcare, and to help be a support person for my father-in-law, who really struggled with this whole process of essentially losing his wife to this terrible neurological disorder. Um, so I worked weekend nights for about a year, and um, somehow I was looped into a conversation about a neurodiagnostic technology program starting. And I thought, this is my chance. This is my chance to return back to normal life, aka day shift, because I commend anyone that works night shift, but it is hard. It is hard, hard, hard on your body, on your mental state, on your family. Um, and so my mother-in-law at that point was at a situation or at a crossroads eventually where she was bedbound and we needed outside help to come in. So that took a lot of responsibility off of myself and my husband. And my daughter was a little bit older, so I was more comfortable with putting her in a daycare situation. And so I essentially wedged myself as much as I could into those conversations at the college or about the college. And I offered my assistance. Let me know if I can help with the program development, knowing in the back of my mind that I had a bachelor's degree and I would love to be part of the program, whether it was teaching, whether it was being the director of the program, whether it was just helping to create curriculum. I just knew that I wanted to be a part of that. So I really kind of nudged my way into these conversations, and eventually position was posted, I applied, and I got this position at the college. That happened in the summer of 2019, and I started at the college in September of 2019. And when I tell you that I hit the ground running when I started at the college, I literally mean that. So, unlike nursing or even rad tech, there are not a lot of resources for neurodiagnostic technology. So I built the curriculum from scratch starting in September, um, knowing that in January I would start with my first class. I had students counting on me to have information to teach them starting in January. So, probably the biggest challenge of my entire life was learning how to build curriculum and then learning how to teach. But it also taught me that I can do hard things. I started with 10 students in January of 2020 at the college, and we actually graduated 9 of those 10 students in December of 2020. And as of now, all 9 of those students have acquired jobs, half of them with Atrium Health, a little over half of them, 5 of them with Atrium Health, and 4 others with outside organizations. We're currently teaching our second cohort of students, and we actually hope to start a third cohort in the fall of this year. This is literally my last slide. I included a couple pictures from, this is our first year students actually like live in action, doing their marking and measuring and learning how to do the EEG process. But essentially, this kind of packages up my whole neurodiagnostic technology bundle, how I stumbled upon it by accident, how I grew into the field, and eventually led me to this career that I'm currently very passionate about. I hope that this presentation has kind of helped you to see that it's possible to achieve your degree and to start a career path at any point in your life. I worked full time. I had a husband and a extenuating family family circumstance, I almost said circus because it was very similar to a circus for a while, an extenuating family circumstance that I was able to persevere through and finish my degree and make a career path out of this that has a very good outlook. So whether you're straight out of high school, whether you're in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s, you still need to work full time. You have kids at home. This program can be tailored to what you need it to be so you can be successful. It doesn't have to happen overnight, but you have to start somewhere to be able to end somewhere. So hopefully that somewhere is here with us at Carolinas College. We would love to get a little bit more in depth with you about your educational background and kind of what your career goals are and what your educational goals are. So hopefully this helps you connect some way into my story and makes you want to also be a neurodiagnostic technologist.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. I know I personally enjoyed getting to see some of your pictures, especially the ones from your NDT program. That was really cool. But I hope everyone else found that to be really informative. I think I talk with applicants and students all the time, and especially right now in this virtual world that we're living in, it's that connection piece, that ability to meet the people and kind of be relatable that is really missing for us. So I'm really thankful that Ashley was able to take some time to talk to all of you today. If you have questions, feel free to go ahead and post those in the chat box. It does look like we have one specific question. What should you do as a high school student to get hands-on healthcare?
So I will take this. I think that as a high school student, I think there are some challenges just due to the state of the world right now. If we were not in a COVID situation, I would say get involved at your local hospital. Reach out to the volunteer services. See if you can start to essentially get your foot in the door. Pre-COVID, there were a lot of volunteer opportunities for students, whether it was delivering flowers from the gift shop or putting visitor badges on people, a lot of different volunteer opportunities. I think that you're probably going to face a little bit more challenges in today's current situation with COVID because there are a lot of restrictions at the hospital as far as visitors and volunteers go. But I would definitely say dig into your health science programs if you're not already in those. Those are essentially tracks that are going to prepare you to come right to us and be somewhat knowledgeable about healthcare and anatomy and physiology and those kind of things that are going to help you progress into neurodiagnostics or any healthcare program, but especially neurodiagnostics.
Yeah, and I'll also say I just posted a quick link in the chat box there for information regarding Atrium Health's volunteer services. They are currently suspended right now due to COVID, mostly, I believe. And just pay close attention. There are different volunteer requirements for adult volunteers and then also teen volunteers. So if you're in high school, make sure you pay attention to that. But yeah, getting your hands on, getting some volunteer experience, shadowing experience is a great way to do that. Another question.
Sorry, Robert.
No,
I was going to also say a good way to actually get your foot in the door and not necessarily be a volunteer is potentially a CNA. I know some high schools still offer that CNA completion program. I will say I had 2 students in my first cohort that were CNAs prior to coming to my program, and they continued to work work in the hospital throughout the program, and their transition was probably the easiest out of all of my students just because they were already established with Atrium Health. So they literally just transferred into open neurodiagnostic technology positions. So in light of the volunteer or lack of volunteer situation, potential CNA work could help you get your foot into the hospital, which could essentially make your transition a little easier.
And I think that's a great opportunity to announce that we are still accepting applications for our CNA program, summer program. So maybe you don't want to wait until the fall to get started on your NDT. You want to go ahead and start something now. You can certainly still submit that application on our website, carolinas.college.edu. You'll find all the information you need there. But also have a question for someone that already has their Bachelor's of Arts or any bachelor's degree. You'd likely already have completed many of those general studies or general education courses. So what does that look like for a student that already has a bachelor's degree with those gen studies, and how will that work into their time or length of time that they'll be participating in the program, which is a really great question. We see that a lot of times with students that have already done some college coursework and are looking into our programs. We do accept transfer credit for general education courses. And I'll dive a little bit more into that later, but there is some uniqueness here with the Neurodiagnostic technology program, because you are able to pursue either a certificate or an associate's degree. If you are pursuing the associate's degree, bring us your gen ed courses. We'd love to evaluate those for transfer credit, but for the certificate, there are no general education components to that, so there's nothing to transfer. You're only working on those specific courses. But yes, we do accept them. It does not shorten the overall length of the program, so you're still going to be participating in the program for its allotted length of time, and that's because our NDT courses align specifically with your clinical experiences. So your semester by semester schedule will be a lot lighter when you transfer in courses, but you're still going to be working on that same time frame to complete. So I think that's all the questions that I had in the chat box. Did we have anybody that had another question really quick before I'll go ahead and let Ashley stop sharing her screen, and I'll get my presentation back up so that we can transition to talk to you all a little bit more about the admissions process here. And also, Ashley, I might need you to give me the host capabilities again as well. Lots of things to figure out in the new technology world. I think we've all become Zoom experts at this point. Or maybe not if you're like me, I still struggle with those.
I need to figure out how to give you control back.
Yep, if you just hover over my image on the 3 dots and then click Make Host.
Gotcha. Okay.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, so now on to our admissions. I'm gonna have to start our presentation from the beginning here for a moment. But onto our admissions, want to let you know a little bit more about who is Carolinas College of Health Sciences and what all do we have to offer. So maybe if you're like me, some of you had grew up around the Charlotte area, but had not heard of Carolinas College of Health Sciences. Maybe you know of Atrium Health, maybe even some of you work at Atrium Health and are just discovering Carolinas College, but we have been around for quite some time. And we do have a strong connection to Atrium Health, which influences our mission and vision. Obviously, our mission focuses on educating, engaging, and empowering professionals for their evolving healthcare career. And then our vision is really to be the first and the best choice for your healthcare education. And we do so by maintaining our core values, which are caring, commitment, integrity, and teamwork. Oh, there we go. And so obviously we have that relationship with Atrium Health, which influences our mission and values, but it also influences other components or gives us other benefits to our college. One of those being we are first priority for clinical placement. So how Ashley was kind of mentioning earlier, kind of going all over different places, that long commute, we really have an advantage here at our school that we get to prioritize our students in the clinical placement process. As Atrium Health, we are the first group that they reach out to allow us to schedule. Those clinical shifts are obviously going to be first shift as well. Also, another great perk with the Atrium Health connection is our Atrium Health Loan Forgiveness Program, and that is eligible to students that are pursuing the associate's degree track, and that will award you up to $10,000 to apply towards your program. It is forgivable as long as you find placement with or full-time job placement with Atrium Health up to 9 months outside of your graduation. And then for every 4 months that you work for Atrium, 2,000 of that is forgiven. It's time worked, so it doesn't come out of your paycheck. This is a really great opportunity for students to secure funding for their education, but then also have that forgivable option. I know I can speak for myself. If there was a loan forgivance option like this when I was going through school, I would have definitely taken up on it. So that's just another great perk for our Atrium Health connection. Some other really fun facts about Carolinas College. As I said, we've been around for a really long time. We were founded in the 1940s as a nursing school and have really evolved as healthcare needs have grown over the years. Our school mascot is the Eagles. So we do have a school mascot, and while we might look a little bit different than some other traditional institutions, that is one thing that really kind of grounds us. We are a lot like other institutions. We have a very diverse student body, and that our mascot of the Eagles really kind of gives us a little bit of sense of pride at the institution as well. We are accredited, so that's always something that you want to look for as an institution where you're going to consider continuing your education. You want to have that accreditation piece there. And then some stats that I really think are super helpful. 95% of our employers said that they would hire our students again. And I think that speaks to the caliber of students that are graduating here from Carolinas College. And it also has a lot to do with our faculty-student dynamic. So we have a 6-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio, which allows you to not just know of Ashley, but you get to know Ashley and you get to engage with her and talk with her. And she's there every step of the process. Again, it's that hands-on that really makes the impact. 98% first-time pass rate on certifications, 89% job placement within 6 months of graduation, and 87% job placement with Atrium Health. If you are looking for a partner in your education, it is going to be hard to find statistics as strong as these. We do really well in those areas, and I think these are really high according to averages other places. All right, so diving in a little bit about our programs, I do just want to briefly let you all know what all programs we offer here at Carolinas College, but I'm only going to specifically talk about the Neurodiagnostic Technology program requirements today. But our programs are broken down into 3 different buckets. We have the certification buckets, which you can do with phlebotomy or histotechnology, radiation therapy, radiologic technology, as Ashley mentioned earlier, and nurse aid that we spoke about, as well as the certificate level for the NDT program. But we also offer associate's degrees in general studies, nursing, radiologic technology, and neurodiagnostic technology as well. And then finally, we offer a bachelor's degree program, which is 100% online, and that is our RN to BSN program. Just something to think about as maybe you look to continue your education further into the future. Definitely got some options for you to explore here at Carolinas College. Application requirements for our Neurodiagnostic Technology program. Want to give you a little bit of an overview for those. So if you are looking at completing the certificate level, that is a 3-semester program. If you are looking to complete the associate's level, that is a 5-semester program. The really cool thing about this is that all students going into the Neurodiagnostic Technology program will start off completing those certificate level courses. And then if you decide, you can make that decision throughout the course that, you know what, I do want to stay in to do my associates. They actually include those courses towards the end of that program. There is no difference when you're going out into the work field as far as job placement or skills that a certificate level could do versus an associate's degree level. The associate's degree just really comes in handy if you are looking to continue that education past neurodiagnostic technology. Maybe you're looking at sleep study or something like that, going on to get that bachelor's. This is a great option. The cost per credit hour, here our tuition is generated through cost per credit hour. So as you mentioned earlier, transferring in courses, those types of things do help to cut down on that cost of tuition. But our cost per credit hour is $382. We do have federal aid programs available, scholarships, as well as the Atrium Health Loan Forgiveness Program. And then as far as your application, so first things first is getting that online application submitted. And then some things that we're going to require in addition to your online application is a TEAS test. That is the test of essential academic skill, if you've not heard of that. We are looking for a total score of 58.7 there. And if you need information, you can certainly Google the TEAS test. There's lots of info out there, but you can also email us at the admissions office and we can get you some information on how to get you registered for that. We are also going to be requiring a high school or college cumulative GPA of 2.0 or higher. You will need to submit your official high school transcript as well as all official college transcripts. So even if you've attended, maybe one course at this community college and then you finished up your courses at another one, we need both of those transcripts from those community colleges. So any college coursework that you've completed or attempted, make sure you get us that official transcript. And we are going to be looking for that 2.0 GPA. And then lastly, for the high school prerequisites, we are going to be looking at algebra and biology. Now, the update to this page is that we now have a fall term that we are going to be offering admission into the Neurodiagnostic Technology program. So you can see there our spring deadline for spring 2022. The deadline to apply for that program is going to be October 1st. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, we've got a lot of different deadlines, but our fall is going to be June 15th. Correct, everyone? June 1st or June 15th. So mark out June 1st, forget that. June 15th, 2021 to get your application submitted. We do need your application and all required documents by that deadline to get you an admissions decision. Once everything's complete, it usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get your decision back. And then you'll just see at the bottom there that full list of courses that you'll be required to complete in order to graduate from the program. And then we added in those online courses that are required for the associate's degree level if you choose to pursue those after you finish up with the certificate. So at this time, I really want to open it up to anybody that might have more questions about the admissions process into the NDT program, any application requirements that you might have. You're welcome to drop those in the chat box or unmute yourself and we can have a little conversation. I think I might have lost my chat box, everyone, so I'm not. I did lose my chat box. Let me get back to that, everyone. There we go. Okay, so we don't have any questions in the chat box. If that is the case, I'll go ahead and start back up. And I knew it was going to make me do that. We'll just advance through these. And then I just wanted to get some information on your screen so that way you could stay connected with us. You might not have any questions right now, but I always leave a situation and then think of the 20 questions that I forgot to ask. So if that is the case for you, feel free to reach back out to us. You can, all the information that we gave you today is also available on our website at carolinascollege.edu. You can submit your application under the admissions tab. And then you can also contact us by phone or our email is the best way to reach us as we are working on a remote schedule right now in the office. So we do have limited staff. But most importantly, I'd say if you're not already, go and follow us on social media. This is a great way to kind of get current student perspectives, figure out current events that are happening at the college, and just stay engaged and connected with us. But if no one else has any questions, I want to thank all of you for attending today. We really hope that it was informative and you were able to get all of your questions answered. And then I also want to thank Ashley for giving us all of that fun information, as well as our two admission staff, Hannah and Jameson, for joining us as well. Thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day.